Memphis track boy, let's go.
My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing.
Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined again on this Sunday by football analyst William Gardner. No time to be blue. It's time to recap week 2, William.
Well, that's some good rhyming there. I hope that's not the high point of the discussion today.
If that's the high point, then we didn't do a very good job with this podcast. I will admit that.
Well, I think you got blue on. This is purple, but it looks blue in the thing. So maybe we are blue.
So the Buffaloes landed an in-state lineman on Saturday, Josiah Manu. He is a 6'5", 295-pound two-way lineman at Thompson Valley High School in Loveland. Flipped from San Jose State to Colorado. He had Arizona and Washington State as a couple other offers and took other official visits to Wyoming and Fresno States. We talked a little bit about him on, I don't know if it was last week's show or the show before that, William, and I know that you like him, so I'm anxious to kind of hear your thoughts now that he is on board with the Buffaloes.
Yeah, I think he's a good pickup. I like him a lot. If you watch, his junior highlights isn't very long, but it shows both offense and defense. Frankly, he's pretty damn impressive on defense too.
Mm-hmm.
He's well coached. You look at, he's got a nice stance, got nice first steps, plays with really nice pad level for a guy that tall. Got a big body and will fill that out some. And so plays low. He got a good pad level. He's athletic and got a real motor. There's one play on there where he's playing defensive line. He runs a dude down 40 yards downfield, which you don't see that from dudes his size, man. So he can really run, and he will run. So he got some nasty in him. He plays physical. I think he fits in with what we're doing on the offensive line now. He's playing guard for them, left guard. And I think he's probably a guard or a right tackle. I'm not sure. I think Gula is better suited to left tackle than he is. But, we've now signed 3 guys that are all 6'5", 295 or bigger. Payne is 6'7", 320. So we're going with that size and the length and filling those tackle spots, I think, really well. And bringing in some guys that can play a lot of different things. So I think that Manu is a really good prospect. I think he's a little bit overlooked playing up there in Loveland. And may be other people coming after him, I'll bet, once he gets into his senior year. But I think what we're doing on the offensive line this year with these 3 big recruits is really, I think, is fantastic. This is, it's maybe not as exciting as signing Seaton and Cardi Smith and Gooden. But these are the kinds of guys you fill in, you build them over a couple of years, and they become really damn good linemen. These guys are all going to play at 6'5", 6'6", 310. So I'm excited about this kid.
Yeah, we got to get up to Thompson Valley to watch a game of his this fall. I feel like that would be a good assignment. Maybe during one of Colorado's bye weeks, we can fit that in. That would be a lot of fun. We were up there at Thompson Valley High School watching Zane D'Souza last year. His team was really struggle bussing, and Zane didn't have the best game he's ever had. So rooting for him, being a Loveland kid. I'm pretty close to there, William, but I live by the Buc-ee's in Johnstown, and I want these Loveland kids to do well at Colorado. I can't really be a fan while they're in college because of the whole journalistic standard thing, but internally, I'm definitely rooting for these guys.
Was Thompson Valley the team that was playing against?
No, but we were at their high school. We were at their stadium. They were actually playing Frederick.
Right. That's right. Yeah. I remember that. Frederick.
Yeah.
They
had a scrappy little quarterback that when he signed somewhere, and I think he's going to be a nice FCS quarterback.
Because that team was well coached, and I was wondering if it was the same team, because this team was pretty well coached too. So that's a good thing.
He's been a starter. Speaking of Oziah Josiah Manu. He's been a starter on varsity since late during his freshman season at Thompson Valley. Won a state championship in 2024, but he does play at the 3A level in Loveland. So didn't do the camp circuit. There are some things from the exposure standpoint that he really didn't have. And Gunnar White, Colorado's lead offensive line coach, actually apologized to Manu and said, "I'm sorry we were not aware of you until now." They offered him earlier this summer. He just was not a guy that was really big about promoting himself, but it seems like he found a nice home.
Yeah, I think he'll be a great addition, and the kind of guy that really makes us powerful up front. Like I said, all three of these offensive linemen in this class are exciting to me.
So last week we recapped Coach Prime's press conference to address his health. And this week we get to recap his media day press conference, which was very much focused on football. And I thought we actually got to learn a little bit about this football team. And Coach Prime is one of those coaches that is very honest.
Yeah.
So when he says this group's doing well, this group's not doing well, I actually believe him more than most head coaches that have come through Colorado. What about you?
Yeah, and he's pretty straightforward. He doesn't have any problem calling out the negative as well, but he focuses on the positive. And so there's a lot of things that came out in this press conference conversation. Just really kind of covered the whole broad range. I like that they started out, with the young man who's struggling against cancer and sort of put the focus on that, which just goes to show you and what kind of a person Deion Sanders and all of his sons are, frankly. And I'm gonna get back to that. Hold that thought, because I'm gonna go throw punches on that issue a little bit later. But I just thought it was an excellent press conference, and his excitement for his team, is evident. And some of the things he's talked about, like I know people have a hard time believing it on our board, but he's talking about 9 guys on that offensive line, who could be who could start games this year, and he's not kidding. I think it probably could go deeper than that, but and it was interesting. He's talking about the O line is ahead of the defensive line right now, which is kind of unusual in camp. But I think that you look at the guy. I think I'm pulling up the list here, and so you got. I don't know which 9 he's talking about, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Let's do a little exercise here. This is actually on the fly here. So we know that Jordan Seaton's one of those 9.
Right.
We know that Xavier Hill is one of those 9. We know that Larry Johnson's one of those 9.
Right. Zy Chrysler.
Zy Chrysler is one of those 9. Kareem Harden is one of those 9.
Are you keeping count here? Because
yeah, I got 5 so far. Cooper Lovelace is 1. Philip Houston when he's healthy, but I don't know if Coach Prime is looking at guys, because Philip is still coming back a little bit. So he and Mana Tayamani I would put into that group, and even Yaya Tia. And we saw Coach Prime ask him, "Hey, when are you going to be full go this past week?" So those would be other guys I would mention in there. Yeah,
well, Andre Roy for sure. Yeah, I think Kareem Harden has drawn some notice, at least from Shermer in his first press conference. So I think there's a lot of guys in the mix in there, and how they end up playing it out. But it seems fairly clear, just a couple weeks in to camp, that so far we're looking at McGill at center, I think, and Chrysler and Hill, I guess, at the guards, and Seaton and Johnson at the tackles. Do you think as a start at the starters right now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Although Lovelace got some reps with the ones at center. I think they're still they're really pushing that center competition right now. They want to see just a little bit more out of that competition, I think.
Well, gosh, man, if only somebody had been saying all summer Cooper Lovelace is going to be in that center competition. I don't know. Maybe there was somebody that said that this year. I don't know. But
does his name rhyme with Billiam?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
or
Okay.
it's a guy to call "Hey you" or "Jackass" or whatever. But it's not like it's a big. I mean, that dude started at center for Northwestern. I keep saying against Michigan and others last year. So it's not like he's coming out of nowhere at center, and he's a bigger, different kind of size guy than McGill. So I think having that competition make them both better and let the best man win.
Yeah. Coach Prime was talking about the tight ends group maybe being one of those that was maybe not living quite up to his expectations. I think Zach Atkins has really started to come on, and I actually really, really, really enjoyed the couple chances I've had a chance to interview him. Once was over the phone when he committed. The other was just on Friday at media day. Like he's such a cool story. He went from a 190-pound receiver to being, a power four tight end that might start. And we've got a story from Sean Niehoff coming with Savell Smalls on the site on Monday. But Coach Prime said that, hey, if those guys are not run blocking the way they need to, and I think especially with Zach Atkins, he's probably further along as a pass catcher at this point. Who would you want on the O-line to kind of fill in that tight end role in short yard situations? Would it be a Carter Smith at this point? Who would be somebody that you could see being kind of a hybrid as like a six offensive lineman out there in short yard situations?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you want to do. If you want more of a fullback and an H-back type, I think Yaya Atia would be that guy who's lined up a little bit behind the line of scrimmage and can move in either direction. Andre Roy, to me, if he's not one of the starters, is the guy. That seems to me he's very athletic. He's 6'6" and right around 300. So I think Andre Roy would be a guy you look at for sure. Cooper Lovelace has played every position on the offensive line, so he's another one that comes to mind. But it depends on what you want to do. I don't know how far along Carter Smith is at this point, but having an older guy with some experience like Roy and Lovelace, putting two more guys out there in a situation like that who have started Power 4 games, you can't go wrong there. So those are some of the names that come to my mind.
Yeah, and Coach Prime said he likes what he's seen from the DBs, the linebackers, the running backs, the edge group, and special teams. Said the quarterbacks are coming along and wants to see more out of the D-line and tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, I think sticking with that offensive line for a second, though,
Sure.
I think Zy Chrysler, to me, is really starting to stand out. And Jordan Seaton's an All-American potential. And I think Zy Chrysler and maybe Larry Johnson are beginning to look like that as well. I think the size that we're going to have up front and the power to move people. I love the interview that you put up there with Zy Chrysler, talking about how they're going to run the ball and the size they got and the guys they got out there. And 6'7", 340, man. We haven't seen much of that recently. And that's interior. And you got Larry Johnson at the same size, at tackle. So I think we're going to push people around and maul some people and run the ball. I thought it was very interesting that, Coach Prime talked at great length really about running the ball. And we got to run the ball. And he said a thing about, I don't know, we're going to win different this year. I don't know if it'd be the Hail Marys at the end. He said, I'd rather be hell during the game, physical, and run the ball, and I'm pretty sure he meant hell on another team, and
Right.
that'd be the kind of CU football I remember from the 90s, and I'd like to see come back here. And you've got that kind of coaching now, with a bunch of guys who played the game that way. So the other thing that stood out to me was he talked about the linebackers running the ball and that there's more speed at linebacker than last year. So that's sort of interesting. And, he's like, what he said was 8 guys that could start at wide receiver. You close your eyes and pick any one of them.
Yeah.
And that's where I read that, most people think, well, and I'm sure I know the usual suspects, that's just coach speak on the board, but I don't think he's like that. I think he means it. And I look at that list of dudes and I'm like, he's right,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is where, this is where people that aren't watching this team and don't know what we have in these rooms don't understand. We're a 9-win team, man. We're as good as any damn team in this stink bag conference, and we're going to show it, and it's going to shock the world. So people who don't see it, who are fans, are on the board. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's right there in front of your eyes.
Yeah, he also mentioned something that we talked about in terms of Arden Walker. Do you give him a D or an L? Is he a dog or a leader? And he said, I don't know. And I did a one-on-one with Arden Walker later during media day, and I told him that Coach Prime said that, and there was you could just tell there was a sense of pride there. Arden's a very humble young man, and he's all about team, and that's why he's a leader. But yeah, he also has got that dog mentality to him that has been underrated, and so
Right.
It was good to hear that said. I think I'd give him an L though. I think he is just the guy that everybody talks about being a leader on this team.
And I think he's going to be I think he's going to be both things. I think he's going to be that dog kind of guy this year that starts making the plays that everybody goes wow about, And Coach Prime talked about. I think it was Coach Prime talked about that he just needs to be. That's going to be his year to be consistent and do it on every play. Instead of a few plays here and there, play all three downs and just really kick ass in all phases of the game. And I look at these guys we've got on the edge and interior, and man, I expect we lead the conference in sacks again this year. So I don't know who will get what, but I would be surprised, frankly, if Arden Walker is not our leading sacker and looking, getting up close to 10 sacks.
When I asked Keaton Wade at media day if they've talked in the Edge group about the goal of trying to repeat as the Big 12's best sack defense, and he said, "Are you crazy? We're trying to lead the nation in sacks." There was no hesitation there at all. They definitely have a high expectations for themselves.
Well, this is and I was going to wait till we talked about practice observations, but I'll just go into this here. This team is very different than last year, man. They have a level of confidence and togetherness and teamwork and camaraderie and faith and confidence. I guess I said confidence before, but it bears being said again, because there's just something different about this team from the last two teams that they believe, man, and that's a powerful thing in a game like football. You believe in what you're doing and in your teammates, you can make a lot of things happen. And the talent across the board at every position on this team is just kind of, it's kind of ridiculous compared to what we've had even last year, and so people not picking us to be one of the best teams in this conference is silly, and they're going to look pretty dumb by the end of the year.
Yeah, and Tawfiq Bayard was another guy I interviewed at media day that really stood out to me, and I kind of had forgotten for a second that he's only a sophomore. He's going to be a big part of this program the next 3 years, and he comes from a huge family. I think he said 15 siblings. It's crazy. One of them is an All-Pro in the NFL, so that helps.
There's just something about him that comes across as being older than just a sophomore. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Senior poise to him, and an older guy, and maybe that's because the older brother and he got to grow up faster. I don't know, but he's another one of those guys, and I love what Coach Prime had to say about they got the guys they needed at cornerback, and they're five deep there, and safeties are hitting. So I don't think Coach Prime is ever going to sugarcoat the secondary. That's one place he's going to be brutally honest, and he's pretty excited. Who knows more about it than he does?
Yeah. Well, we should mention Bill Collins, rest in peace to him. He passed away recently. It was mentioned by Coach Prime during his press conference, and somebody that stood up to racism in that 1969 Liberty Bowl. It's kind of crazy to think that even in 69, that's not that long ago, that integration still hadn't fully taken place in college football, and Alabama tries to intimidate him by sending a bunch of guys out there. And Coach Prime said that, hey, we got to get his family, his teammates out here. We got to do something to honor him, because it's one of those cool moments in Colorado football history of creating change.
Well, I think I recall a story. I can't remember what year it was, but that like some SEC teams at that time would not play teams that had black players on them. So it was right in the line of what they were doing down there to have Alabama try to do that to him. And I thought it's funny that we beat him 2 years in a row. And, one of the things that reminds me is of something that most CU fans don't know. We were one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country there for about 5 years at the end of the 60s and the early 70s. In fact, one year we finished 3rd in the country, so we had a lot of talent and we were a leading team in terms of things like integration and ultimately I think that when we beat Alabama the next year, Barry Bryant said, well, I'm gonna get black players because they can play, man. I don't care about the rest of that. So it was a game changing, nation changing sort of thing that Bill Collins did, and wish he was better known for it, frankly.
Yeah, no, I think that there's not a lot of great things to take away from somebody passing away, but being able to recount some of the impactful things they did during their life is something that you want to do because he was so impactful. How about Shador Sanders' debut? Did you watch that?
Yeah, I didn't watch the whole game. I saw some of the highlights and followed up on it. But I don't know, man. The dude is the dude. I mean, it's Shador did Shador. I don't know what the hell people, I guess it just takes me back to the stupidity of the racism and hate for the Sanders family, for Deion Sanders and his sons. Everything that's said about Shador is all bullshit. And it's based in racism and like, oh, he's brash. And Baker Mayfield ain't brash, whatever, man. The kid can play, and the people on our board defending the jackasses who didn't draft him, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. The guy can play. I don't give a damn what the NFL did or said. The NFL's playing some kind of game. It's funny, ironic, I guess, that we're talking about Bill Collins and we're still talking about this kind of garbage with Shador. But the bottom line is he showed he could play the damn game, and I saw people nitpicking this and that, and I'm like, the dude's first NFL game, man. He's going to get better and he's going to learn from it because that's what Shador does is he learns from things and gets better. But he showed his accuracy. He showed his ability to keep plays alive, and I don't give a damn who he was playing against, whatever. It's first NFL preseason game. And I think he's earned himself some playing time and we'll see what happens going forward. But ain't nobody on the planet ever seen Shador Sanders do anything except that. Okay? So all you dumbass NFL scouts and know-it-alls and haters, that's all the dude has ever done in football is succeed. That's all he's ever going to do. So I don't know. It's not like it's a big damn surprise to me. This is what Shador Sanders does.
There were a couple moments in the first quarter where there was some PTSD when Cleveland was not running the ball and he was having to run for his life. But yeah, he settled in, and there were a couple throws that I'm sure when he reviews the footage of it that he's kicking himself. But I mean, those touchdown passes were incredible. There's not many people on this planet that can make plays like that. And so, if
I don't, like that one to his tight end right in the middle of the end zone. I don't think people understand how difficult that one is because everybody's like, well, that's just a short pass right to the middle, but you got to put it over the linebacker and in that hole where he's running to, and it's not as easy as it looks. A lot of guys get that picked off by the linebacker, quite frankly, trying to throw it right through there. And then that first, I saw idiots talk about that first touchdown. Well, that's just a run in the middle, easy play. Well, okay, the guy was double covered and he put it in the exact only spot, where the guy could catch it for the touchdown, go and enough inbounds that it'd be an inbounds play. So I don't know, man. If you can't see the talent there, that's on you. That's not on me.
Well, if anything, and we've talked about this, and it's upset some Browns people that get in our comments on these videos, but we've said Cleveland doesn't deserve Shador based on kind of how they've operated with this. At the very least, Shador he's got an audition for another team, right? with these games?
Yeah. Well, I don't, hey, Browns fans, I got a nickname for your team. I call them the Sharks. We all know what that means, but I think that Shador, there are a lot of, I think, he's going to show that he can play in this league, and he's going to wind up somewhere. I don't know if he's going to wind up with that stinkbag program, but he'll wind up playing somewhere, and he'll be damn successful at it.
LeJontay Wester really got things kicked off for the Forever Buffs this past weekend during NFL preseason action. 2 long returns, a punt return for a touchdown, and he made some folks look silly out there on that return. And it's probably helped him a little bit to be able to focus on the return game a little bit more. It was something he did really well when he was at USF, but at Colorado it was kind of hit or miss. He did have a return for a touchdown, showed that ability, but he looked a lot more comfortable just being back in that setting in that game.
Yeah, and those returns, like he disappeared in the group, and you're like, I don't know where the hell he went. And then all of a sudden he came out the other side. So that was pretty.
He's great. A jitterbug for sure.
Yeah, had some catches too, so I think he really showed some people, and Jimmy Horn had a couple of catches. BJ Green, man, he had a play there, almost got a sack. So a lot of our Colorado guys had big first days.
Zay Weaver had a touchdown for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Brady Russell caught a pass for the Seahawks. He's loved up there in Seattle. He is their special teams dude up there. I think Laviska Chenault's one of these guys, and I'm just waiting on to just stay healthy and emerge, because we saw how special he was when he was at CU.
Well, we're getting back to the time like in the 90s when we had so many guys in the NFL. You could watch any team and see a forever buff on one of them. We're going to be that way. We're going to get more guys drafted after this season than last season. And it's just going to be exciting times. The next thing you had listed down here was Justin Mayer's signing in the CFL, and we're going to see a lot of our guys in places like that as well. And exciting to see them get those opportunities. But like Justin, I think Justin was probably our best offensive lineman last year, and not sure he could start this year for us, given the improvement in the guards we brought in.
Yeah. You've got Mark Vassett up there in Canada as well, punting in the CFL. A couple other notes here before we get into our observations from practices with the Buffaloes during week 2 of preseason camp. Mountain State's Ford stores become the official naming partner for the indoor practice facility, now named the Ford Practice Facility. And you've already got, I saw at Media Day, they had the Ford logo up on the stadium banners as well. So Ford stepping up to help out in this era where you got $20.5 million you got to come up with every year.
Well, and when we win 9 or 10 games again this year, more people want to jump on board and do that. The more successful you are, the more revenue you get, because people want to be on board with all that sort of stuff. And then we allowed to talk about our new sponsor, or that's something got to be later on?
Not yet. We're I think next week we'll be able to do that.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, we'll just leave it alone. We'll leave a big surprise.
Okay. 2 home games are now sold out. The opener against Georgia Tech on August 29th. We're getting closer to that. And family weekend versus Wyoming on September 20th. This is going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to, I would imagine, sell out every game when all is said and done.
Yeah. I think once things get started, and I think there are probably some people waiting to see, but once we start winning games, people are going to be lining up to get those tickets, and it's going to be a Folsom Prison again. Not a place you want to come into.
Is your business growing but not quite ready for a full-time CFO? Macaulay Capital offers fractional CFO services for companies doing more than $3 million in annual revenue. You get expert financial leadership without the full cost. Learn more about how you can improve your business's profitability and cash management at MacaulayCapital.com. If you know Boulder, you know the Hungry Toad. We've been serving this town since 1991, long before the lines on Pearl Street. Just north of campus, we're your local British pub with proper fish and chips, quality burgers, a scratch kitchen, real English cask ale, and no tourist fluff. We support CU football, women's soccer, and the loyal fans who keep it local. The Hungry Toad, Boulder born, Buffs proud. All right, week 2 interviews. We got a chance to talk to Marshall Faulk, running backs to Kalen Taylor, Dallin Hayden, Micah Welch, and then we talked to the 3 coaches that are in charge of coaching Colorado's defensive front, and that's George Hilo, Damata Pecco, and Warren Sapp. I don't know if you got a chance to watch those. Those were before media day, William. If so, was there anything that stood out to you about any of those conversations we had?
Well, I think the passion and the professionalism of Marshall Faulk and Warren Sapp and George Hilo and Damata Pecco, and it's funny to see Damata Pecco and Warren Sapp, who were both really first-rate, superb NFL defensive linemen, but very different people. It was fun to see that, and Damata Pecco is so much bigger than Sapp. Even though they're both huge, ginormous human beings, but them talking and I thought it was interesting. There was a sense of humility from George Hilo, that he's working with these 2 guys, and yet he's got a hell of a resume. George Hilo's not some chump that walked in off the street, and so I saw him. I think he talked about living up to last year's sack totals and all that sort of stuff, and that this team knows where they need to be. And so I think those 3 guys are very exciting for the front 7 on this team. Marshall Faulk I thought he was very interesting in terms of talking about what he's doing with these running backs and who he's got there. I still think that Kalen Taylor has done nothing to disprove to me that he's the best running back on this team and is going to be the leading rusher. And
you're driving the hype bus there. You were very high on him. So
yeah,
props to you. You were first to drive that bus.
Yeah, I think he's a 1,000-yard back, and I think he's a home run hitter. So where can you go wrong there?
He's a great receiver out of the backfield too, as we've seen.
Yeah. And Dallin Hayden continues to show what the coaches were seeing in him in the spring, and he of all those guys, he's probably the one that's going to most benefit from having Marshall Faulk there to teach him how to play the damn game. Because he's got high-end talent, he just hadn't figured out how to use it. So if Marshall Faulk can get him to that point, it's going to be exciting. And then, Michael Welch, I think is a guy that if he can stay healthy, it's going to be exciting and can do a variety of different things as well. So it was just fun to hear everybody. And I understand that people take it with a skepticism, but everybody from Coach Prime down says we're running the ball, and I believe it. So
yeah, and Faulk was crediting Michael Welch for losing some weight this offseason to get in better shape as well. So those are some good interviews. They're all up on our YouTube page if you want to download those and catch up with those interviews. And we've got so much content coming for you guys from Media Day. Let's go back and recap what we saw from Well Off Media, Reach the People, the pregame show, whatever your social media channel of choice is with these practices. Did you have something you wanted to add before we get into that?
Well, I was just thinking, you mentioned Michael Welch losing weight, and that just takes me back to the fantastic job that Coach Swayze and his staff did with this team. I don't recall ever seeing a team make so much progress in transforming their bodies as this team, especially on the offensive line and guys like Michael Welch, and we're not having the hamstrings that other teams see. And so I just have to throw again out there Swayze. And then I had a note here that takes me back to Coach Prime and his insight, which is, we didn't mention Byron Leftwich, and Coach Prime talked about his addition to the staff. I mean, this is an NFL offensive coordinator, who's now tutoring our quarterbacks, and just the depth and the experience and the talent of this staff is nuts, man. Just wasn't too long ago, we hired a Barnum and Bailey circus reject as an offensive line coach who wasn't even coaching the offensive line at the time, and now look what we got. So I wanted to throw that out about Byron Leftwich and Swayze, and Coach Prime reiterated again, that when he was fighting cancer, he didn't have to be calling in here every day to make sure these guys were doing their jobs because they're professionals.
Yeah. He's put together a good staff. It really is, to your point there. It was interesting hearing Marshall Faulk and Warren Sapp discuss their experience going back to Canton for the Pro Football Hall of Fame inauguration weekend. They said there's a difference between the first ballot guys and the others, and they kind of are almost segregated in that way. I had never thought about that. That's like there's even groups within that Hall of Fame class that were even more special.
Yeah, that's the nature of human beings, though. We rank each other and whatever. So that to all the rest of us, they're all like immortals. But even amongst the immortals, there's got to be a rank system in there, I guess.
Well, it's cool. Sapp was saying that he went out there and he gets guys like Richard Dent to just get on a video thing and send a message to a certain player, because Warren Sapp's like, they're sick of hearing my voice yelling at them every day. And this is another Hall of Famer kind of re-emphasizing the message I want to get across.
Well, I thought I was very interested in Marshall Faulk saying every time he goes back there, he finds a guy. He said, like this time I found Tony Dorsett, and we just sat down. We talked about the game and the differences in the eras and what it was like for him and for me. And, it just reminds you, I watched both of those guys in the NFL. I from where I stand, they're just, they both were played in the same era, but the Faulk, it's a different thing altogether. But I just thought it was interesting. Imagine you go back to a thing like that and you're walking around and all those guys are in the room,
And what Coach Prime did was said, hey, you guys got to go to this. I can't go, but you have to go. And so, there's a sensibility you have to have when you're going to have gold jackets on your coaching staff that there's a benefit to have that goes beyond being their practice. Like, again, going back to the video messages and just kind of their cachet and leaning into that, as opposed to making these guys have to miss this type of stuff.
Well, and it reminds me of last year, the big controversy at the beginning of camp when Shiloh and Shador went to the fashion show in Paris, and Coach Prime told them, this one lifetime thing, man. You're not going to miss this. You go, you come back, and we'll get back to work. It's like Coach Prime understands that one damn day of practice ain't going to make or break anybody, or 2 days. And these important sort of life things you got to go and do, because what the hell, man? You may get cancer. You don't know what the hell's going to happen if you don't take these opportunities. And I think that's one of the reasons why great players want to come and play for Coach Sanders and Coach Prime, and is because he understands that he's not just here to teach them football. He's here to teach them life, And so he's got perspective, I guess, is what. And I guess you've got a different perspective when you're the best player that ever played your position in the game. So
well, sometimes that can ruin your perspective, but Coach Prime I think that's where kind of the faith element of it comes in, to where he's been able to really try to just grow as a person to the point where you can deal with these players that aren't as gifted as you and try to bring the best out of them, because as we've heard since we've been alive following sports, that great players usually don't make great coaches. And that's the difference, I think. And I think the faith element really does help out there.
And that for some reason takes me back again to his media day comments and talk about how energized he is and how excited he is and how good he feels and how his health is great. He just is so ready to be there. And somebody asked him, it was a very interesting question about how have you grown as a coach, and he talked about how he's learned something each year, and it's going to be different this year without Shador and all those receivers and such, but it's a new start, and he's so excited and jazzed about it, and you better watch out for a team with a jazzed up Deion Sanders coaching it.
Yeah. And I think getting back to Boulder has been good for him. I think we've seen just him look better almost every day since he's been back. being around everybody. It kind of rejuvenates you. I enjoy being around the scene, even though we can't watch practice as traditional media. Just being out there, as a football junkie, it just kind of it's chicken noodle soup for the soul, I guess, is what I'm going for.
And you're just pushing buttons and things that I keep remembering. This interview with Zy Chrysler and him talking about how he picked Boulder specifically because it was small town vibe, and he's from a town in Mississippi that it ain't even big enough to be a small town.
Yeah.
And he talked about being in Boulder and it's having that small town feel to it, and so there's just that interview with Zy Chrysler, man. If people need to look at that, because that guy, there is so much packed into that, and he's become one of my favorite guys on the team.
And that was written by Sean Niehoff. It's up on BuffStampede.com right now, so definitely check that out if you haven't yet. Go ahead.
That's why it hit me so hard, because I didn't realize it. Sean Niehoff's such a good writer, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. He does great stuff, and we divided and conquered at Media Day. So we were tracking down all these guys. It's always such a fun event. During that Monday practice, going back to practice number 6, Tyrekus Davis had a nice interception. It looks like he's playing nickelback, which makes sense given his size. I kind of figured maybe that would be the case, because I think Coach Prime likes to have a little bit longer guys on the edge at cornerback.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about Preston Hudds and DJ McKinney and how good they're doing and what they're building on.
Yeah.
Last year, so you're looking at Tyrekus Davis and Tion Park and R.J. Johnson and Noah King and these other guys to fill in your other spots. And then start to build your depth, and get he said the nickel and dime looked really good. And so I think they're just looking to keep developing guys and developing that depth. I mean, so that was a nice thing to see. Trying to think who else that I saw was Tyrekus Davis having a good camp so far, I think.
What about Simeon Price on that Monday practice with the hurdle? I'm trying to think of the last Colorado back that was a big hurdler, and the first name that comes to mind is Darryl Scott. Before he transferred out, he was always trying to hurdle guys out there.
Yeah, well, he didn't hurdle. He didn't hurdle many meals. I'll put it that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah. Before he got kind of big. That freshman year, he had a couple. I think Eastern Washington was one where he just completely cleared the guy, just like Simeon Price did at practice. Simeon Price tried that again later in the week. It didn't go as well.
Yeah, but I think I like seeing that Simeon Price is showing some flashes of different things he can do, and showing some skills and some abilities out there. I think that he's a guy that can certainly make a difference on this team as well. So that was fun to see.
Kylan Salter won the running back versus linebacker relay competition. So I think that he's shown everything in the weight room and conditioning wise. Just need to see more consistency out of him in practice. It was kind of a back and forth practice on Monday, which is what you want to see. It feels like each of these days there's new guys standing out, which is everything we expected. But it's you want to get that confirmation during camp to kind of have it validate your thoughts going in.
Well, except it's hard to say, like if a guy does well, is it because the other guy didn't do as well? Or, until you play against another team, it's hard to really have validation of anything. Coach Prime talked about the O-line being ahead of the D-line, but then you talk to Zy Chrysler and he mentioned Amari McNeil, which is an obvious pick, but then who else did he said? Tawfiq Thomas really is standing out to him, and Anquan Barnes, So I think every practice we're seeing a different guy kind of be the star, and I think we're going to see that all throughout this season. That different guys are going to step up at different times against different teams, against different types of offenses and defenses, and so. When you have that kind, when you're, we don't need to replace, Shador and Travis Hunter one for one because we're going to replace them by a committee of dudes who are all going to step up at different times.
Yeah, no doubt. On Tuesday, one of the things that stood out to me was Caden Salter really showing off his dual threat capabilities. As Coach Prime said, sometimes it's hard as a quarterback that can't get tackled in practice to really kind of show how dynamic you can be in that aspect, because somebody will grab your shoulder pad. The officials are going to,
Blow it.
blow it dead. And so he was able to get out there and show kind of what we expected. Julian Lewis with a dime to Omarion Miller. DeKellen Taylor, I mean, he was really showing up early last week. I had him written down a few times, just making big plays.
Yeah, and I think, he's settling in, learning the offense, and really getting into a place. He's got a lot of experience as a college running back, and if you didn't watch his films from where he was before, you don't realize he's got that shiftiness, the ability to jump, cut, and change direction, and really explode through a hole. Not only is he the fastest guy on the team, but his sudden speed. What I mean by that is he can turn it on, instantly. He can put a foot in the ground and he's instantly up to that top speed. And that's not something we've seen at running back at CU for a while. So I think that's going to be exciting. And I think that what we're doing in the run game, Caden Salter is the kind of guy who explodes in games, and people are surprised because what you just said, like he's not allowed to get tackled in practice. And so, you don't really see what he can do because they're blowing a whistle all the time. But in a real game, you put him out there, you get him out on the edge, and he's going to make people look stupid. Either, they commit to, if they commit to him, he hand off and the running back goes. And so it's going to be fun. And that reminds me of another thing, man, I couldn't figure out what the heck to talk about, but then it keeps reminding me, one thing that was fun to see was split backs, two backs in the split back position in which, and what's exciting about that to me is you could do 100 things from that lineup, right? And either one of those backs is equally a weapon, and either one of those backs could be equally a blocker, or a pass guy or whatever. So it's great to see two guys out there, and with the guys we got, with the threat of DeKellen Taylor's speed out there, and maybe you put a bigger guy like Price or Welch with him, or any kind of combination like that, and now you got all kinds of things you can do. So that was exciting to see, and also demonstrates to me that we are serious about running the ball this year. Yeah.
Are you feeling? Obviously, we know that Jordan Seaton's going to be the left tackle. Do you feel like Xavier Hill left guard, McGill center, Chrysler right guard, and Johnson right tackle is in pencil at this point? In pen, I mean, a couple of those guys are in pen for sure.
I think center. Yeah, I think center and left guard is a little bit still up for grabs with Loveless fighting McGill at center, and Hill. I still think that a guy like Okenby might do something there. Kareem Harden has shown some stuff at left guard. I think I would be shocked if anybody beats out Larry Johnson at right tackle and Zy Chrysler at right guard. And obviously Seaton is Seaton, so that's that. So
maybe if Houston and Taimani get healthy and
right.
But it's getting a little bit closer to that season opener now.
Yeah, and you just can't, it's just hard to replace 6'7", 340, man. watching him push around Sammy Okunlola, even using bad technique. You're like, this guy's just a whole other animal, man. This guy's a brontosaurus, for Christ's sake.
He's got a great personality too.
Yeah, and him and Chrysler, my God, that okay. Let me do the math here. That's 400. That's 680 pounds on the right side, man, and both 6'7". So I think one of the quarterbacks in one of his interviews said, "I think we're going to get some time this year." So I would be surprised at this point if Larry Johnson and Chrysler and we all know that Jordan's going to start. So those three, and then I think that left guard and center is still a little bit up for grabs, although clearly Xavier Hill is the favorite at the left guard. But I think Cooper Loveless, man, I've been saying him all summer long. Him and McGill fight it out and let the best man win. But the nice thing is we got depth. Like last year, the last 3 games we had to go to walk on at right tackle. We ain't gonna have to do that this year.
Yeah. Did you see Quincy Wiggins, how fired up he was after a tackle that Tuesday practice? I got a chance to talk to him at Media Day. He's a man on a mission, man. It's kind of a cool story.
Yeah, and he's another one that's transformed his body and cut off a lot of bad weight and his.
He said he's actually gained weight, but it's better weight. Yeah.
And I think Zy Chrysler started to mouth off to him. I think that's who he beat, if I remember correctly. And he just was, that's what you want to see, man. That's I remember that from I don't know. It reminded me of Alfred Williams and Canavis. Well, Canavis didn't ever celebrate because he was such a quiet dude. But just seeing that kind of fire from an outside linebacker like that, and quite frankly, people can say what they want, but Quincy Wiggins got that level of talent. Will he get to that level remains to be seen. But to see that happening and to hear his name continuing to get called after the spring he had is pretty exciting.
And it seems like he's getting more and more reps with the first team now.
Well, and some dudes once you start to get that success, some guys feed off of it, man, and that's what he seems to be doing. Is like, it gets you hyped, and then you want to do better the next play, and then he just seems like something happened over in the spring, and I don't know, like he looked in the mirror and said, "Man, I can play this damn game." And here he comes, and I said on the board at some point in the past week, I said Quincy Wiggins is the X factor on this team. He is the guy who, if he hits his top level, he's worth 3 or 4 wins. I mean, he is a game changer. And same with Jaheim Oatis, but Quincy Wiggins is one of those guys like Alfred Williams who can absolutely almost single-handedly shut down an offense if he's on his game.
And we knew that there was going to be no dearth of options for the quarterback to throw to this year. In that practice on Tuesday, Zach Atkins had a nice touchdown. You saw Quinnell Farrakhan with a really nice catch along the sideline. And then Quentin Gibson sneaks out for a big gain in open space. I mean, it just you got so much depth there. It's a second consecutive practice. Tyrekus Davis with the pick. Just so many guys standing out. Teion Parks and Carter Stoutmeyer were pretty physical. Coach Prime did point out that, you guys got to dial back the aggression a little bit. We're going to get some PI calls out there if we're getting too handsy with it out there. But just, another practice where you saw a lot of guys stand out.
But I'd rather have that where I've always said, I'd rather pull you back, man, because it's a lot easier to pull you back than to try to get a guy to play that way who doesn't play that way.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that jumps out, what kind of talent do Quentin Gibson and Farrakhan have to be able to stand out in this damn group? As true freshmen.
Yeah.
The future is bright, and I think that Coach Prime was talking about a lot of these positions. I think he might have been talking specifically about the defensive backfield. About not only are we looking good for this year, but looking good for down the road as well. And that's true at a lot of these positions. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of guys just continuing to stand out and really show something on this team. And it's going to be very exciting. I think this is going to be a season where, we don't have Travis Hunter with a Heisman, but we got a superstar every week. And it's maybe a different guy every week on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. I think that's probably what's going to happen. They took Wednesday off, got back to practice number 8 on Thursday, and Coach Prime had his wristbands guy up there. He said he made 1,000 wristbands that read "New players, new team." Apparently, Coach Prime said "better team" is what they got, but he went with the "new players, new team." Would you wear one of those wristbands? I feel like there's got to be a better slogan to put out there.
I don't know. If they gave me one, I'd wear anything Coach Prime gave me.
Okay. But Tavion Coleman was getting reps with the first team D line again. It seems like he's a guy that's gotten a lot of run early on during camp.
Well, and he's a guy that's got some playing time at his prior stop, and we talked about this last week, I think, or the week before. We talked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 dudes on that in that defensive tackle group, and all 7 of them can play. So that's going to be quite a thing to just bring wave after wave of big, aggressive, well coached guys on that defensive tackle rotation.
So right now you'd probably go Barnes, and you would probably go Amari McNeil as your starters, right?
I would think, yeah, because they're going to go. Looks like they're going to go with an even front, and they'll have two defensive tackles, and so I would go with Barnes and McNeil. But I think
Coleman's probably running second team right now at this point, I would think.
Yeah, then you got Jaheim Otis got to be right up there close, but then Tavian Coleman, Torian Carter, Tawfiq Thomas are all pretty interchangeable.
Yeah,
pretty high level players, and you wanted those 3 dudes. Is probably one of our best defensive linemen the last few years.
And they just got Torian Carter back in the mix as he's been out with an injury. So that was good to get him back there. Let's go back to Thursday's practice. I wrote down that Isaiah Harch, is still working at slot receiver. Had a nice catch during teamwork with Preston Hodge in coverage. Hodge has been having a really good preseason, and Coach Prime mentioned that he is kind of the leader of that secondary group. DJ McKinney's a leader more by example. I would say he can speak up, but he's not the most vocal guy in the world. So you've got a good leader there in Hodge. And did you see Wiggins with the bull rush during one-ons welcoming evergreen walk-on freshman Hudson Stieber to college football?
Yeah,
he just completely drove him back.
Well, and that's sort of one of those. That's almost a wasted rep for him. No offense against Hudson Stieber, but you're a walk-on freshman. Yeah. I mean, you got to get in the rotation. You get whoever shows up, but
maybe it builds confidence for Wiggins, like you said. Sometimes you kind of the success can feed. No, okay.
I remember lining up across from Sandy Armstrong, who was an he played nose tackle. Believe it or not, played nose tackle and outside linebacker for us, and was excellent at both. And lined up across from him one day in summer practice, just brutalized me. I was like, it didn't build my confidence much.
Do you have any other thoughts from Thursday before we go on Friday and Saturday?
No, I don't think so. Nothing that jumps out to me.
Okay.
I just think that the practices just feel different to me this year, more intense and more, they're all going against nobody's, everybody's getting reps is going against somebody good. With not to be mean to Mr. Stieber, but for the most part, it just seems to me that there's more talent across the board, so everybody has to go against somebody good most every rep. So it's exciting to see it, and there's a level of hustle and intensity that just seems different to me this year.
Yeah, it's hard not to let that optimism seep in every preseason, but this one, I guess I'll say it this way, William. We've talked about and covered a lot of 5 and 7 teams, 4 and 8 teams. This team is so much better than those teams.
And I just had a thought. Yeah,
it's just talking about the floor of this team. There's no question in my mind this team's going to bowl game. I think they can have a really special season, and we'll see what that's going to look like. But the optimism doesn't feel like it's being manufactured one bit this preseason.
Well, I think that I'm looking at the the eligibility chart, and there are so many guys on this team who this is their last shot, man. And like all those guys on the offensive line, man, only 5 of them can play, and if you ain't giving it everything you've got, your career as a football player is going to be over, man. And that brings a sense of urgency to dudes. Same with the defensive line and, these linebackers, Martavius French and Sean Myers and these guys, is like, you got a lot of guys on this team who, if they don't get it this year, it ain't going to happen, and so I think you're seeing a lot of leadership there. And I think that this coaching staff was very careful. Everybody says, well, get more NIL and bring in more 5-star transfers. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for dudes like this who are going to come in and give it everything they have and work as hard as everybody else on the team and be part of the team and not try to be some prima donna. So I think that guys that were complaining, people that are complaining about, we didn't get this, that, or other guy on the transfer circuit, maybe we didn't want that guy, because what we wanted is what we're seeing out here now.
On Friday, Coach Rashad Davis, one of their receivers coaches, had a great message about seizing opportunity like LeJohntay did on Thursday night. Yaya Tia told Coach Prime that he'll be back practicing this week. Did you see? Okay, so we had Seton versus Jaheim Otis in a foot race. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Otis actually got out to an early lead, but Seton rallied, and he just dove right into the end zone, went the extra mile, as Coach Prime said, and he praised Seton for being like, I am not going to lose this. It was a really good sign of just the competitiveness that young man has. It was, I would go watch that when we're done recording here, William, because it was it's what you expect out of Jordan Seton now, being slimmed down at 305.
Well, and Otis as a defensive tackle, you're going to expect him to run better. But I'm just thinking of those two dudes. I don't know, if for some reason it makes me think of the second Rocky movie, and Paulie said, the guy's a dinosaur, Rock. A dinosaur can do a variety of damage. Like these two gigantic frickin' dudes, man, in a foot race. I don't know if you were there, but did the ground shake as they were running?
Well, it wasn't, but if you were standing close by, I'm sure you felt something.
Yeah,
on your feet there.
You didn't want to be in their way, that's for sure.
No. They scrimmaged on Saturday. I didn't have a ton of takeaways from this. It kind of seemed, again, kind of like a back and forth type thing. There were more first team reps for Quincy Wiggins. Reginald Hughes, I thought, took some hard coaching. He's been really showing up. Torian Carter got to break down the huddle. It was good to see that. But yeah, I think they didn't put out a lot of footage from that scrimmage because now you're getting closer to that season. You're not really wanting to show too much.
Yeah, and I think, and again, you're playing against yourself, so what can you really take from anything at this point? It's kind of got to that point where every practice looked a little bit like the one before it, until we start getting into game planning for Georgia Tech. It sort of the dog days of summer, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this coming week, they're going to be practicing, I believe, another 5 times. We've got media availability on Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to be out at the CU kickoff luncheon on Friday. Are we going to record next Sunday, William?
I expect so. I don't know.
Okay.
No reason not.
I've been getting a lot of requests for us to do like a live show on YouTube where people can submit questions. Yeah. And maybe I think this is, like you said, we've gotten to a point where maybe we're repeating ourselves a little bit. Maybe this would be a good next Sunday. Maybe we can do a live show at like 11 Mountain Time and allow people to come in there and interact with us a little bit. I think that would be fun.
Well, let's make sure they know about us. People show up and ask questions, and then we got to see if we can think on our feet.
Oh, I think we've got enough reps to make that happen.
Yeah.
Are you nervous about a live show?
No,
we've done it before.
I'd be nervous if I had to set it up because I don't have to. But
okay, I was looking at that a little bit today, and so I'm gonna make sure that I'm well versed in that technology by the time we go live next Sunday.
I know how to show up and run my yet. That's what I'm good at.
You are good at it. So yeah, that's your skill set, and we lean into that every Sunday.
Is that something we got to do at a site together, or something? Or
it's pretty similar to the way we record now. It's not through Zoom the way we record now. It's through StreamYard, which it's basically, William. I've done 100 of these interviews for other people, they send you a link just the way I did today, and you'll hop in there, and I'll be able to run things. And yeah, no. Do you remember we did that with Jimmy Surfoss when Coach Prime was hired? We did a big live show.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be all for it. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Anything else to close out here, or should we save it till next week?
No, I think, you know what, it's the time to be optimistic, folks, and there's a lot to be optimistic about, and I think it's exciting. The NFL is exciting to me again, and CU football is going to be just as exciting as last year. And if you can't love this as a CU and a Coach Prime fan, I probably need to get a new thing. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah. Well said. All right, William, always appreciate you. Excited to go live with you next Sunday. And hopefully everybody out there that's listening right now will join us next Sunday when we go live. Thanks for tuning in this week.